The biting wind whipped strands of dark hair from beneath Anya Sharma's helmet as she stood on the battlements, the vast plain stretching out before her like a rumpled, ominous blanket. Below, the enemy was no longer a distant rumor but a dark, unsettling tide assembling on the horizon. The air vibrated not with the sharp crack of rifle fire or the earth-shaking boom of artillery, sounds Anya had only encountered in hypothetical historical simulations, but with the purposeful low growl of heavy transport vehicles, the high-pitched whine of power systems, and, faintly even at this distance, the rhythmic, purposeful clang of construction as automated siege engines rose like metallic beetles from the earth. This was the sound of warfare in 2025, a symphony of steel, composites, and advanced mechanics, a brutal, high-tech evolution of ancient combat. Anya, a captain in the Bastion Guard, Novigrad's elite defensive corps, knew these sounds like the beat of her own heart. They were the echoes of a history forged by a singular absence. Centuries ago, the promising glint of gunpowder, known in its crude form across Eurasia for fireworks and incendiaries, had simply failed to ignite a military revolution. That critical spark, the refinement into a stable, powerful propellant for widespread projectile weapons, had never caught fire. Perhaps key alchemists met untimely ends, vital materials proved perpetually impure for military-grade mixtures, or the engineering challenges of durable barrels and reliable ignition systems remained insurmountable hurdles for too long. Whatever the confluence of factors, the age of firearms, the era of unseen death from a distance, had simply never dawned. This absence forced military evolution down alternate, yet in some ways, ancient paths. Instead of focusing on ballistics and explosives, innovation drove relentless progress in materials science, yielding alloys and composites of immense strength and lightness for armor and weaponry. Engineering prowess was poured into perfecting siege warfare, not just trebuchets and ballistae, but complex, large-scale machines capable of delivering massive kinetic force against fortifications that grew ever stronger. Archery remained a primary ranged weapon, pushing bow design, aerodynamics, and massed volley tactics to incredible levels of sophistication, far beyond historical limits. And then there was cavalry. Without effective widespread firearms to sweep mass charges from the field, heavy cavalry remained the dominant force on open battlefields. This led to centuries of focused bioengineering and breeding programs, creating warhorses of unparalleled size, strength, and endurance, while armorers clad both rider and beast in increasingly advanced composite barding, often integrated into a single, fearsome unit. Light cavalry retained its vital role as scouts and skirmishers, perfecting horse archery into a devastating art form, capable of delivering rapid, accurate fire from galloping steeds using mechanically assisted composite bows. Anya ran a gloved hand over the smooth, dark surface of the parapet, feeling the faint hum of the embedded energy field just beneath the composite outer layer. Novigrad was a masterpiece of this evolutionary path, a layered synthesis of historical necessity and bleeding-edge technology. Its older stone walls weren't demolished, they were encased and integrated into massive composite structures layered with reactive armor and kinetic dispersal fields. It wasn't merely inert stone and metal, it felt like a living, sensing shell, bristling with automated defenses, precision ballistae capable of tracking fast-moving targets with unnerving accuracy, high-speed archer towers equipped with automated loaders unleashing storms of specialized arrows, and sensor nets that monitored every approach, feeding data points into the city's defensive AI. Beneath the surface lay extensive underground complexes for logistics, personnel, and countermining operations, equipped with sonic emitters designed to turn the Earth itself into a weapon against subterranean threats. Captain, Lieutenant Kovalev's voice came over the internal comms, tight with anticipation. Anya turned. Kovalev was younger, earnest, his face partially obscured by his helmet, but his eyes, visible above the chin guard, held the same tension Anya felt, underscored by a nervous habit of tapping his fingers against his thigh armor, a habit that grew more pronounced under stress. He was a good officer, meticulous and loyal, but the raw edge of combat still showed through the training, a vulnerability Anya felt compelled to protect. Enemy vanguard is within sensor range. Estimated time to initial engagement, 30 minutes. Acknowledged, Lieutenant, Anya replied, her voice calm, deliberately so, despite the knot tightening in her stomach. She'd trained for this her entire life, risen through the ranks on skill, discipline, and an intuitive understanding of warfare shaped by this world's unique history. Yet, facing a full-scale siege always brought a chilling awareness of the stakes. This wasn't just a tactical exercise. This was Novigrad, her home. The intricate web of life contained within these walls. Her younger brother, Stefan, with his quiet passion for ancient texts, was somewhere inside, working in the city's archives, a world away from the cold steel and thrumming energy of the defenses. The thought of him, vulnerable behind the layers of composite and energy, added a sharp edge to her focus, a personal stake in the outcome that transcended duty. Confirm all automated systems are online and calibrated, she instructed Kovalev, her gaze sweeping the vast enemy formation. Double-check energy shield projections on sectors Gamma and Delta. Pay special attention to the subsurface scans near Gate 3. Their mining drones are always the first sign of a serious push. They prefer to know rather than bludgeon there. Confirmed, Captain. All systems green. Shield harmonic stable. Subsurface scans show initial activity near Gate 3. Anti-mining emitters are engaged. Same standard opening moves, Kovalev reported, his fingers tapping a quick, silent rhythm against his armor plating. Anya nodded, a muscle twitching in her jaw. Standard, yes, but executed with terrifying technological sophistication. She could see the metallic limbs of automated trebuchets locking into position, their counterweights massive burdens ready to be lifted by powerful hydraulic systems. Heavy, low-slung vehicles, shielded against ranged fire, carried segments of modular siege towers designed to be assembled rapidly under cover. And sensor readings confirmed the telltale subsurface vibrations of mining drones beginning their subterranean work, like mechanical termites chewing at the earth before the walls. This blend of ancient principle and modern tech was both terrifying and fascinating. Artillery existed, yes, but not in the form of gunpowder cannons. Novigrad possessed massive siege engines in its central keep, the Phoenix Trebuchet battery, capable of launching multi-ton payloads over vast distances, powered by hydraulics and guided by advanced targeting computers. They launched dense kinetic slugs designed to shatter structures or containers of corrosive agents, even incendiary payloads that ignited on impact, creating localized firestorms. Similarly, personal ranged weapons were bows, crafted from advanced composites capable of immense draw weights, firing specialized arrows, armor-piercing variants, sensor-tipped darts for targeting, incendiary heads designed to ignite materials on impact. They were silent, deadly, and required incredible skill to master, making elite archers units of immense value. Anya took a deep breath, the recycled air in her helmet cool against her face. She thought of the society beyond these walls, a world shaped by the enduring military reality. Without the mass-produced, relatively simple technology of firearms, military elites had retained significant social and political influence. Their mastery of complex armor, advanced melee weapons, and particularly the breeding and handling of modern warhorses kept them at the apex of military power. Urban life was shaped by the constant presence of formidable walls and the visual spectacle of armored patrols and training exercises. Technological development had followed a different path, pouring resources into materials science, bioengineering, complex mechanical and hydraulic systems, and the vast logistics required for supporting large, non-mechanized armies. Chemistry explored non-explosive compounds. Propulsion methods didn't rely on internal combustion engines in the same way, leading to different forms of transport and power generation. It was a world where brute force and precision engineering, rather than explosive power, defined military might. Captain, Kovalev's voice was tight now, his finger tapping accelerating into a blur. Enemy siege engines powering up. Estimated time to first impact, 5 minutes. Anya steeled herself. 5 minutes until the test began. Not just a test of Novigrad's defenses, but a test of her command, her soldiers, and the very foundation of their strength. She could see the enemy lines below, clusters of heavily armored infantry moving forward, their own energy shields flickering. They would probe the gates, attempt climbing assaults under covering fire from their advanced ballistae, and support the inevitable push by the siege towers. This would be a brutal, close-quarters fight on the walls and at the gates, a battle where armor, skill with a blade or polearm, and the effectiveness of defensive technology would decide the outcome. There would be no hiding behind miles of distance, no raining down unseen death from afar. This was war, physical, immediate, steel against composite, will against will. She looked out at the plains, at the approaching storm. The first low hum from the enemy trebuchets was rising to a distinct, powerful whine. The air seemed to thicken with anticipation, the very stones of the parapet vibrating faintly. Anya gripped the edge, her advanced composite gauntlet finding purchase on the rougher texture designed for grip. Novigrad would hold. It had to. Stefan was here. Everyone she cared about was here. This was personal. All units, prepare for impact, she ordered, her voice broadcast over the local comms channel, reaching every soldier on her section of the wall. Her tone was calm, firm, leaving no room for doubt. Bastion Guard, stand ready. For Novigrad. The first massive projectile arced through the sky, a dark shape against the pale afternoon light, a tangible threat that announced the beginning of the siege. It struck the outer energy shield with a blinding flash and a low, resonant boom that vibrated through the entire structure of the walls. The shield flared, momentarily buckling under the immense kinetic energy, before snapping back, holding its integrity. More projectiles followed, impacts ringing out across the outer defenses like a giant hammer striking an anvil. From the outer towers, automated ballistae whirred, their massive springs or hydraulic pistons recoiling with immense force as they launched heavy, armor-piercing bolts back at the enemy lines, targeting the exposed power systems of their siege engines or vulnerable logistics vehicles. Elite archers on the firing platforms began their deadly work, their bows drawing back with the aid of mechanical assisters integrated into their armor, sending specialized arrows streaking downrange with silent, lethal speed. This was the grim, precise exchange of pre-gunpowder warfare and 21st century tech, a ballet of force, counterforce, and technological adaptation playing out on a massive scale. Anya watched the initial exchange, assessing the enemy's targeting priorities and the effectiveness of Novigrad's outer layers. The enemy was clearly focusing on softening the outer shields and walls before committing their infantry and siege towers. It was standard procedure, executed with terrifying precision. They would keep this up, relentless, probing, looking for the slightest weakness. And Anya and her guard would be here, countering every move, defending every inch, until the siege broke or defeat wasn't an option she allowed herself to dwell on. Not now. Not on the first day. The long, hard test had just begun. The rhythmic thud of projectiles against energy shields and the walls became the new, terrifying heartbeat of the city. As night descended, the siege of Novigrad intensified, shifting from a daylight bombardment to a multi-pronged assault under the cover of darkness. The sky above the city walls became a chaotic canvas of searchlights, reconnaissance flares from aerial doles, limited in direct combat but vital for spotting and gathering sensor data fed directly to commanders like Anya, and the fiery trails of incendiary payloads launched by Novigrad's Phoenix trebuchets targeting enemy concentrations. The low hum of enemy siege engines continued its relentless song, joined now by the closer sounds of digging and the sharp impact of melee as probing infantry units tested gates and potential weak points along the outer wall layers. The air grew thick with the metallic tang of stressed energy fields and the sharp scent of ozone from kinetic impacts. Anya Sharma stood on a fortified platform overlooking a primary gatehouse, its massive composite doors reinforced with energy fields and bristling with automated ballista emplacements. The enemy's strategy was clear: pound the defenses with kinetic and corrosive projectiles, disrupt subsurface defenses with mining drones, and launch coordinated infantry assaults supported by their own advanced ballistae and, eventually, the formidable siege towers. It was a technologically augmented version of sieges fought for millennia, a grueling test of attrition, engineering might, and the sheer willpower of the defenders. "Damage report, Sector 5, she transmitted, her voice raspy with fatigue but unwavering. They had repelled 2 infantry probes against the main gatehouse, costly clashes resulting in casualties on both sides. The enemy infantry, clad in armor as formidable as their own, had fought with desperate ferocity, their vibroblades and energy hammers forcing the bastion guard to rely on the strength of their energy shields. Shimmering projections that absorbed brutal impacts before needing to recharge, and the reach of their pole arms. Moderate structural stress on the secondary composite layer. Captain, the response came back, the voice weary but steady. Energy shield emitters holding, but drawing heavy power. Repair drones are prioritizing structural patches. Casualties, 6 wounded, 2 fatalities in the last push. Anya's jaw tightened. 6 wounded, 2 lost. Each number was a face, a name, a life tied to this city. She pictured the fallen soldiers, their advanced armor ultimately insufficient against a well-aimed strike through a joint or a concentrated blow that overwhelmed shield and plate. There were no quick, clean deaths at range here. This was war fought blade to blade, shield to shield, a deeply personal and brutal affair. She pushed the image away, forcing her focus back to the living. Acknowledged. Keep the shield harmonic stable. Rotate the guard units to allow for brief rests where possible. Ensure the medics have access. Captain, mining drone activity spiking near Gate 3. Lieutenant Kovalev's voice cut through the comms, sharp with alarm, his nervous finger tapping against his armor now loud and frantic. They're concentrating their efforts. Sonic emitters are overloading. Anya's mind raced. A successful mining operation beneath the walls was perhaps the greatest existential threat Novigrad faced. Unlike impacts against the reinforced walls, a tunnel could bypass layers of composite and energy fields entirely, leading to a catastrophic breach deep within the city's defensive structure, or worse, a collapse of the foundations themselves. Blast it, she muttered under her breath, a rare crack in her composure. Reinforce the subsurface countermining teams in that sector, she ordered, her voice cutting through the fatigue. Deploy mobile sonic emitters from reserve. Get thermals focused on that area, detect those tunnels. And get the Griffin Air Cavalry back on station. I want eyes on their main camp near Gate 3. Disrupt anything that looks like a supply line or command center for that mining operation. She knew the risks of committing the precious Griffin troop, their tolls valuable for rapid transport and reconnaissance. While armored against ground fire from ballistic and lighter projectile weapons, they were vulnerable to dedicated anti-air emplacements. But the mining threat was paramount. These tolls were a precision tool where a hammer wasn't appropriate, capable of spotting the subtle signs of enemy support and disrupting it from above. Hours crawled by, filled with the desperate struggle against the unseen threat beneath the earth. The ground near Gate 3 vibrated ominously, a constant, unnerving tremor that even the heavy composite walls couldn't entirely dampen. The air grew stale and heavy with the effort of the long night. Reports filtered back from the subsurface teams, fierce, brutal combat in the confined darkness against the enemy's armored mining drones, augmented by human engineers fighting with specialized close-quarters weapons. Anya felt a helplessness she detested. She was a commander of the walls, her domain was above ground, reliant on sensor data and filtered reports. This subterranean war was in the hands of the brave engineers and soldiers fighting blind beneath her feet, a desperate battle for the city's very foundations. Then, another crisis erupted. Captain. Breach detected. Sector 4. Automated defense system offline. Anya's blood ran cold. Sector 4 was relatively quiet until now, a section covering a less critical approach. An automated defense system failing was unheard of. Novigrad systems were designed with multiple redundancies, multiple layers of defense. What caused the failure? She demanded, already sprinting towards the nearest access point to Sector 4, Kovalev and a small escort team clanking behind her, their footsteps loud in the sudden shift of focus. Unknown, Captain. Sensors indicate an internal disruption. Not external impact. Internal disruption. Not external impact. Sabotage. The word slammed into Anya's consciousness, a sickening realization. A betrayal from within the very walls they were sworn to protect. Who? Why? The questions flashed through her mind, quickly overridden by the immediate, critical need to contain the breach. A brief, sharp memory flickered, her father, a veteran engineer, explaining the intricate power conduits running through the walls, vital arteries powering the defenses. A technician, he'd said, with the right knowledge, could cause immense damage. Reaching Sector 4, Anya saw the chaos. A section of the automated Archer Tower was sparking violently, its intricate mechanical arms frozen mid-cycle. Below, a portion of the energy shield was down, its protective shimmer gone, and enemy infantry, having seemingly waited for this precise, coordinated moment, were already pouring through a gap in the outer composite layer, their advance covered by concentrated fire from enemy ballistae further out. They weren't just soldiers, they were clearly an elite breaching team, moving with speed and ruthless efficiency, their armor lighter for agility. Form a defensive line. Anya roared, drawing her own vibrosword. The humming blade felt familiar and deadly in her hand, an extension of her will, a tool honed by countless hours of training. The sound of fighting was immediate and ferocious. The enemy breachers, equipped with powerful cutting tools designed to widen the breach and specialized close-quarters weapons, slammed into Anya's hastily formed line. The air filled with the shriek of grinding metal, the crackle of energy shields under strain as defenders desperately raised them, and the guttural cries of soldiers locked in brutal melee, a terrifying, intimate struggle for survival. Anya was in the thick of it, parrying a vibroaxe with her sword, the force of the blow jarring her arm even through her armored gauntlet. She thrust, her blade finding a gap in the enemy's lighter armor, and felt the satisfying resistance as it cut through material and flesh. This wasn't the relatively controlled environment of the training grounds, this was raw, desperate combat where every movement counted. Beside her, Kovalev fought with grim efficiency, his polearm a blur, keeping multiple attackers at bay. His earlier nervousness was gone, replaced by sharp, focused intensity. He wasn't just a voice on the comms, he was a soldier, risking his life on the front line beside her, his breathing ragged over the comms, a shared testament to the physical toll of this war. Anya saw the fear in the eyes of some of the younger soldiers near them, quickly replaced by grim determination as they stood their ground, defending their city with blade and shield. This was the reality of combat in their world, face to face, force against force. This wasn't a planned counterattack, it was a desperate, reactive measure, a scramble to plug a sudden, gaping wound in their defenses. The unpredictable, non-linear nature of the siege had just slammed into them, a potential internal threat combined with a breach in an unexpected sector, while the mining threat still gnawed below. Anya's personal quest to keep Stefan safe suddenly felt terrifyingly fragile, intrinsically linked to the fate of the entire city. If the breach wasn't sealed, if the internal threat wasn't found, the cascading failures could lead to Novigrad's fall. Hours passed in a brutal, desperate struggle at the breach point. Anya fought alongside her soldiers, leadership by example a powerful, ancient tool more potent than any automated system. The enemy pushed hard, but the Bastion Guard, reinforced by units diverted from less active sectors, held the line, fighting with a ferocity born of defending their home. The automated ballistae in other sectors shifted their fire, attempting to suppress the enemy support fire covering the breach, their heavy bolts impacting the ground and structures around the enemy team with percussive force. Finally, just as exhaustion threatened to overwhelm them, a message came through. "Breach sealed, Captain." Countermining teams drove them back. Emitters held the tunnel. Kovalev relayed the news, relief evident in his voice, even as he parried one last, desperate blow before the enemy force at the breach began to withdraw, repelled but not destroyed. And internal security forces have apprehended a suspect near the Sector 4 power conduit. Appears to be a technician. Investigation is ongoing. Anya felt a surge of weary relief, quickly followed by a cold, hard anger that settled deep in her bones. Sabotage. From within. It was a new, insidious layer to the siege, a poison in the well of trust. They had contained the immediate external threats, but the long night had revealed vulnerabilities they hadn't anticipated, a potential rot at the core of their defense. The chilling reality of internal betrayal spread quietly through the ranks as the news filtered down, a new, unsettling fear added to the exhaustion and physical strain of the siege. The siege of Novigrad wasn't just a test of composite and energy against kinetic force, it was a test of vigilance, resilience, and the loyalty of those within the walls. As dawn finally broke, casting long shadows across the blood-stained battlements, painting the reinforced walls in hues of gray and red, Anya leaned against the composite wall, the soft hum of the energy shield a comforting vibration against her back. Her armor was dented, her muscles screamed protest, but she was alive. They had held. For now. But the enemy was still below, the siege engine still waited, and the chilling reality of an internal threat now lay like a cold stone in the heart of the city, a new enemy lurking in the shadows. The long reign of steel, muscle, and engineering, amplified by 21st century technology, was being tested not just by external force, but by the fragility of trust. The fate of Novigrad remained uncertain, hanging in the balance of a siege that had just become far more complex and dangerous than any mere assault on walls. The enduring echo of steel on steel continued, but now it was joined by the unnerving silence of suspicion,